What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another video. This one just so happened to be scary too. I don't know. I feel like I'm spoiling y'all a little bit, but it's all good though. Don't y'all worry about it. Today, y'all gonna have to get comfy because we are gonna be watching some scary stories. I know y'all love them. I love them too. So, you know what I'm saying? We're just gonna get straight to it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, by the way, if you haven't already. Y'all are the best supporters ever, to be honest, honestly. You know what I mean? I just can't thank y'all enough for all the support that y'all give me. And it's just crazy. But I'm going to see y'all in the live, though. So, you know what I'm saying? If you got any questions, just feel free to ask me there. But without further ado, let's just get into the video. Yeah.
Subscribe to IMR Scary Tales and watch spine-chilling horror stories almost every day. And don't forget to click on the bell icon.
I'm much older now, but this happened when I was 7. My parents had to go out of town, so I had to babysit by Bella, who was a good friend of the family, and she had babysat me a few times before. We'd had a great relationship, as her dad was a good friend with my dad. I also had the hots for her. She was beautiful, kind, and smart, and had a thing for crop tops. Anyway, when my parents went out for their anniversary, Bella had to babysit me. We had a lot of fun playing games and messing around. When it was time for bed, Bella was tucking me in, and that's when we heard a noise coming from outside, and then a noise of someone walking into the house. We just assumed it was my parents. Bella told me good night, and then left the room, while leaving the door slightly open and the light on, as I was a little wimp. Anyway, I listened out to hear Bella walking down the stairs, calling out to my parents. Then there was a moment of silence. Then suddenly, Bella came bursting back into the room, grabbed me out of my bed with her hand over her mouth, and she pushed me into the closet. She told me that I had to stay in the closet and be absolutely quiet. There was a sound of running up the stairs, and when she closed the closet door and turned towards the stairs, I peeked through into the room. The footsteps were coming towards my room. A large man wearing a balaclava walked into the room and stared at Bella. He was bulky and looked in his mid-30s. The man said to her, "Hello, pretty. I didn't expect anyone to be here." Bella told the man the police was coming and he needed to get the hell out. The man didn't believe her and laughed, starting to mock her. Bella told him, "Leave." And that's when the man started walking towards her, saying, "I just want to talk. I'm not going to hurt you." Bella shouted to the man to get away, and she started...
Yeah, I just want to talk. I got a mask on, a ski mask, and I'm in your house in the middle of the night when everybody's supposed to be asleep. I just want to talk. Just want to talk, though.
attacking him, throwing several punches. The man...
Those punches look very effective, by the way. That should knock somebody out. Hey, stay back or up. Yeah, that'll show him.
He just laughed and he yelled, "Come here, darling." And that's when he grabbed her with his big arms and he got her in a big bear hug. He started to squeeze her very tight, and Bella screamed in agony. She struggled to get out of the hug, but it was clear that he was too strong for her. I just sat there in the closet, silent, not knowing what to do. The man kept on squeezing Bella. To me, it looked like it was going to snap her in half. Bella was clearly in pain and couldn't breathe. The man mocked her, asking her if she enjoyed it, telling her how pretty she was. She started punching the man.
Weirdo.
He squeezed her tighter and tighter. He had this big, perverted grin that could be seen through his balaclava. This went on for forever, and I thought Bella had passed out. Her arms went limp and her back arched. I could see her eyes closed. I was terrified. I thought she had actually died. The man continued to bear hug Bella while chuckling. Finally, he placed her on the floor and straddled her unconscious body. He looked at her from her face to her belly. He muttered something under his breath and then started kissing her belly button.
Ew.
Luckily, there was a loud knock at the door, along with the voice of someone calling, "Police, open up!"
Yo, dudes like this make me the fuck sick, bro. Like, how lonely do you have to be to resort to things like this? Like, come on. You really just make me want to castrate y'all motherfuckers, bro. It's like, dudes like this just... Why do they exist? Come on now. You can literally pay a hooker to do this shit for you. Literally. What do you have to steal the vagina for? It doesn't want you, clearly. Let's continue.
And got up and ran out of the room, down the stairs. After a few seconds, Bella opened her eyes, and I opened the closet door. shouting her name, and I hugged her tightly. We went downstairs and opened the door to 2 police officers. It turns out my next door neighbor, an old lady, had stayed up late and saw the man entering my parents' house, after which she'd called the police and then my parents. My parents got home, and so did Bella's. We talked with the police over what had happened. That night, the man was found and arrested. He was just a burglar. After the incident, Bella started therapy and also took up boxing and judo as a means of self-defense. Eventually, she recovered and continued to be my babysitter. However, I continued to think about the man, about what he would have done to me if it hadn't been for Bella.
He would have turned priest on that.
I've been staying in my apartment in Jersey City during this coronavirus epidemic. My roommate has since gone home to Ohio to stay with her family during all of this, so I've been in the apartment alone. I've been mostly just watching new movies and shows. I try not to go out too much because my city's pretty bad right now. A couple of days ago, I was running extremely low on food, so I had to make a mandatory grocery run. I went to the nearby Trader Joe's wearing a mask and gloves, which, considering the insane line and the limited stock, turned out to be a good idea. On my walk back home in the dark, I realized the streets were even quieter than they were the last time I went shopping, just a week before. Suddenly, out of an alleyway, some guy wearing a mask and gloves approaches me. He had a baby, wrapped in a hoodie and a small blanket in his hands. He seemed really sincere, and asked me to let him take his son to my apartment real quick, so he could change his diapers and feed him his food. He swore to me that
Go to your own fucking house.
he was clean and that he just really needed this favor for 5 minutes. It seemed like an emergency, and hearing the baby's little cries and the fact that this man even had a child with him, it just seemed really sincere, and the soft part of me agreed. I let him into my apartment building.
Nigga. Yo,
it was only a short walk from there.
Tripping.
We walked up the 3 stories to my apartment, and I let him inside, asking him to close the door behind him. I cleared a spot on the living room table for him to change his child's diapers and whatever.
So let me get this straight. You let a complete stranger who you met on the way home, that came out of an alleyway at nighttime, you, within less than 5 minutes of knowing him, you say, sure, come up to my apartment, change your baby. Do you know that's his baby? Did you confirm that? What? So many questions. Come on, let's go.
When I turned around, I saw the man snooping around in a strange way. He'd gone into my kitchen to do God knows what. I called over to him, letting him know that I'd set up the table for him to use. He didn't answer. I started getting confused. I walked into the kitchen and saw him looking around suspiciously. But what really confused me was the fact that the man was holding what I thought was his child with just one hand. It took me a second to realize.
Dickhead.
It wasn't a child. It was just a baby doll wrapped
couldn't
in
tell?
a blanket. One of those realistic ones that can make crying noises. He looked at me and suddenly pulled a gun out of his pocket. That's where things went from 1 to 100 real quick. With a gun aimed straight at my head, he said something like, I'm gonna take what I want, and you're gonna stay in my sight. Of course I had to say okay. I wondered if it could be a BB gun with the tip painted black, but even if it was, I doubt if I could have overpowered him. I couldn't risk it. He pulled out a big black bag from his backpack and filled it with valuables.
Filled it with valuables. Puts juice in the bag.
My wallet, some of my roommate's jewelry, kitchen valuables, my brother's Xbox, and my iPad. It was sickening to watch, but I was more scared of him pulling the trigger of that gun. He filled his bag and threw the fake baby in it as well. And then he left. I called the cops first thing. They came and helped me get in touch with the building owner to check out the CCTV footage. Of course, it didn't help him much, since his face was covered by a mask, making it near impossible to even discover who he was. All I can do is urge everyone to be careful. Don't trust anybody. Stay indoors until all of this is...
You try to make it seem so deep, yet you're the one Like, I don't think most normal people would do things like this. Just let strangers in their house. Who cares if they have a baby? I don't. I for sure don't. You take him to your house, sir. Before you catch this Shoryuken.
Over. My older sister Jen is 5 years older than me, and the story also happened 5 years ago. Before Jen was dating her current boyfriend, she was on Tinder to meet a few guys. I remember the night specifically. She told me and our other sister Maria that she was meeting a guy at a bar a few blocks down. When she got there,
A few guys?
she sat at the bar and texted the guy to let him know where she was sitting. Under a minute passed, and a man sat down next to her, offering to buy her a drink. This man was significantly older than my sister, and according to her,
Smeagol?
gave off a horrible smell. He had bad breath and crooked front teeth. She told him no thank you, right away, as she had a guy coming to meet her. The man didn't get up just yet. He kept sitting there. He said he would buy her a drink in the meantime, before her date got there. Jen felt very uncomfortable and asked the man to please leave her alone. The man got up from the bar stool, and Jen told us that she did a side glance to see where the man had gone. She said he sat at one of the nearby table booths. Jen texted a date about what had just happened, and asked him to please hurry. There wasn't a response, so she sat there for a few minutes. She texted again, "Where are you?" This time the guy responded, "Running late, get a drink or two without me." Now, this was an odd text for a guy to send to a girl that he was meeting. And to make it even worse, the man from before just came to sit back down next to Jen, asking her where her date was, and acting all upset that she was still alone. My sister responded to the man once or twice, and then she had had enough, and she asked him to please leave her alone. Once again, she texted a date one more time, saying, "Sorry, I'm going to leave." As she sent it, the man's phone, which he had left on the bar, vibrated. My sister immediately put two and two together, and she said she was going to go to the bathroom. She called her sister Maria, asking her what to do. Maria told her to just leave and drive home. I listened in on the conversation. When Jen left the bathroom, the man was no longer anywhere to be seen in the bar, which I'm sure she found to be a relief. She went straight to her car and started driving home. It's a very linear and short path from that bar, and she was home in probably a couple of minutes. When she pulled up in the driveway and started walking to the front door, she noticed another car pull up across the street. It didn't stop directly in front of the house across the street. It stopped one house over. Jen came inside, and from here on, I can tell the story from my own point of view. Maria and I came to greet Jen and asked her what had happened. She went to the window and creased the blinds to look outside. She told us there was a car out there, and she was worried that the man had followed her. But when all three of us looked through the blinds, we didn't see a car out there. So she told us the unsettling story of what had happened at the bar. Maria did a better job at comforting her than I did. It's a girl thing, I guess. I did tell her that if that man ever set foot near her again, I'd kick his ass. Later on, we all went to our rooms and did our own thing. I was playing Far Cry 4 on my computer when I heard the horrible sound of both my sisters screaming. Let me shift back to Jen's perspective for a second. She was on her phone in bed when she got a text from that number. It said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't see your text until I got to the bar." Jen didn't answer, so he sent a follow-up text saying, "I'm gonna meet you at your house," which...
That's when you load the 30 clip in, bro. It's nothing else to do there but wait for him to come, mutilate his ass. It's nothing else. Come on, dude was a whole creep. Men, why are some of y'all like this? I never understood this. Are y'all really that lonely? Are you that lonely? Pay a hooker, bro. Get you some throw money at it and it'll come to you. That's all you have to do. It's not that hard. Come on now. Y'all are just weird. Some of y'all.
Jen called Maria to come to her room to look at the text. And as they talked for a little bit, figuring out what to do, Jen's window slid open and someone tried pushing their way through the roller shade. That was when both Maria and Jen screamed, causing not only me but our parents from upstairs to come rushing to her room. The man trying to come in gave up before we even made it to the room. Our dad went outside to try and chase after the man, but he was already long gone, probably in his car. Of course, my dad called the cops to get the police report. Jen gave the police the man's cell phone number, and they took records of the text conversation. They said they were going to do what they could in order to trace the number. although it could take a few days. My dad was contacted after the weekend by the local police station, and they asked him to come in to the station. They said they traced the number to be a fake number through some app, and that there was no guarantee that they could trace the EUs back to the specific phone. My dad asked them to do whatever they could. Weeks passed, and we never heard from the police, but we all slowly started to forget about it. You can never really understand people's motives and how they think they can get away with something like climbing into a girl's window.
That's why you don't meet people over the internet.
One night in a small American town, a young girl threw a party and invited all of her friends from school. There was a large group of boys and girls, and as the night went on, they began telling scary stories.
Ooh.
One boy said he had heard an urban legend about an old graveyard that was located near the girl's house. According to the story, an old woman had been buried in the middle of the cemetery, and there were rumors that she was a witch. They said that if someone stood on a grave at night,
Whew.
she would grab them and drag them down
Wasn't expecting
into
that.
hell. I would never go near that graveyard after dark, another boy said. You're all a bunch of morons, laughed the girl who owned the house. It's just a silly superstition. I can't believe you take it seriously. The boy who had told the story turned to her and sneered. It's all very well to be brave when you're safe and warm in your own house. I think you'd have a different attitude if you actually went down to the graveyard. It wouldn't make a difference, replied the girl haughtily. Okay, then prove it, said the boy.
Fuck no.
We'll all go down to the cemetery and wait outside while you go in and stand on the old witch's grave.
Fuck no.
A grave doesn't scare me, said the girl. I'll do it right now. You'll have to prove you really did it, said the boy. Otherwise, you might chicken out. He took a knife from the kitchen drawer and handed it to her. Stick this knife in the grave, he said. Then we'll know you were there for sure. The group of kids set out for the graveyard, and when they reached the old iron gates, they gathered in a circle. All of them stared at the girl. She tried to pretend she wasn't scared, and she hoped that they didn't see her shivering in fear. With the knife clutched tightly in her hand, the girl walked through the old iron gateway and made her way through the dark.
You don't have to do this, ma'am. Who cares if you... Who cares? You don't have to do this. This is a whole lot of Caucasian activity. You see, I don't care what y'all think of me. You're not getting me to do this. What are you trying to prove, ma'am? What? Some cool points? You want some cool points? Fuck that.
Graveyard. In the moonlight, the tombstones and the trees cast strange and unnerving shadows.
Weirdo.
Eventually, she came to the old woman's grave. There is nothing to be scared of, the girl told herself. It's just a stupid story. Crouching in front of the headstone, she whispered, I'm not afraid of you. Then, she raised the knife above her head and thrust it into the earth. Take that, you old witch, she chuckled. The girl was about to turn and leave when she felt something holding her back. She couldn't move. Something was tugging on the hem of her dress and dragging her down. She was filled with terror and flew into a panic. Help! She cried. She's got me! She's got me! When she didn't come back, her friends began to get worried. After a while, they cautiously entered the graveyard to look for her. They found her sprawled across the old woman's grave. She was dead, and her face was frozen in a silent scream.
Damn.
Without realizing it, she had plunged the knife through the skirt and had pinned herself to the ground. That was what had been holding her.
Fucking dickhead. How the fuck did she break her neck, though?
The poor girl had been so terrified that her heart gave in, and she died of fright.
Stupid ass, yo. Oh my god. Dumbass.
I was taking a road trip in my Mustang from Texas to Arizona to visit my brothers. I usually keep emergency supplies in the trunk, such as water and tools. I was taking, I guess, what you would call a scenic back route, because I like flying at high speeds with the top down, without worry of other cars or the police. This was one of those completely deserted roads, with one lane on either side, and nothing but deserts and cacti and shrubs as far as the eye could see. I was flying down the road when the car started to emit these concerning popping noises from under the hood, and the car started to jolt or jump slightly. I put a heavy foot on the brakes to bring the car from a speeding 90 miles an hour and then came to a gradual halt. I got out of the car, popping the hood, pretending as if I'd know what to expect or how to go about fixing it. There was no smoke, nothing like that, but I didn't have a clue as to what could be the problem. I got back in my car to try and start it again, as I feared the damn thing wouldn't even start back up now. The car was a #1 Ford Mustang, so yeah, it was an old car, with its share of problems naturally.
Damn.
I tried to call my roadside service company, but then I realized that I didn't have any service
you
this
fucked.
far out in
You
the
are
desert.
dead.
I was more or less stranded. I hadn't seen a single other car pass me that whole hour I was driving on the road.
You're dead.
And I was scared to think how long it would take for another car to pass by. I waited on the side of the road, sitting on my car's trunk, for literally hours, sweating my ass off. My spirits rose when I saw the shine of a car reflecting the sunlight, speeding down the road in the horizon. I hopped off my trunk and started walking and waving my arms out for help. But the car didn't stop. It just zoomed past me. Pure evil. I didn't know how somebody could leave another human being stranded like this.
Because they don't know you. How about that? Real quick, are y'all gonna stop and pick a total stranger up in the middle of the road where no one's driving on that street? Be honest. Whether it be daytime or nighttime. Nighttime, you definitely not getting your ass picked up. You're gonna die out here, sir. I will not be an accomplice to anything. Even in the daytime. I'm still not picking nobody up. I'm a germaphobe. I'm not gonna fucking trust you. Period.
Nightfall came and the hunger was setting in. No cars that passed since the first, and I was trying to fill my stomach with the water bottles I had in my trunk. Eventually, I saw headlights approaching. I had my car's hazards on, but I also waved my arms once more. The truck, as it turned out, pulled to the side, and a fairly large man stepped out. I told him my car had broken down and asked him if he knew anything about cars. But he didn't seem immediately interested in my car. He seemed more interested in asking me if I was alone, where I was going, and why I just didn't call for help.
Freak
And he
boy.
asked me if anyone knew I was here.
Oh,
These
Serial killer 101, bro. Those are all the questions that check off the box to this nigga's gonna murder you. You tripping, dog. I would've punched him in his throat, took his truck, dipped.
questions were certainly making me uncomfortable. He finally offered me a ride. Though if he was trying to make a point of making me uncomfortable, he accomplished that. I stepped up into his pickup truck, and off we started driving. He said it would be a long while before either of us would have phone service. He started asking me more questions, like why I would decide to take a back road like this. Minutes in the truck started to slow down. I heard him utter, "Ah, shit." He pulled onto the sand on the side of the road, looked at me and said, "This piece of crap has broken down. This couldn't be happening." I looked back at the man and realized he was still looking at me. 5 seconds went by and he was just staring at me.
About to take
He
that
finally
ass.
asked me to go and lift up the hood, and he said he would crank up the latch. I can only describe this whole situation as being insanely suspicious. I went in front of his truck with a bit of distance between the front and I, and waited to hear a click, meaning that the truck's hood was unlatched. In my head, I was picturing him trying to run me over, and that's exactly what happened. As I took one step towards the truck to try and open the hood, I heard the roar of the engine as the man was on the gas. If I had reacted half a second later, I would have lost my legs or instantly have been killed. I took off running into the pitch black night, looking back to see the taillights still there, and then gunshots, surely gunshots, aimed at me. That man was trying to kill me. It was too dark out there for him to possibly shoot me dead without some kind of luck. But I thought I was gonna die at any moment. I ran as far as I could. Then I made myself as low to the ground as possible. I heard the truck speeding off into the distance, so I turned and saw the taillights of the truck slowly disappearing down the empty road. I eventually fell asleep on the side of the road, and the nightmare didn't end until early morning when I woke up to another pickup truck passing by. I waved him down, covered in dirt and sand, and thank God this man was actually normal. He and his wife, they gave me water and drove me to the nearest town where I was able to call the towing company. It was a 45-minute drive back to my car in that goddamn road, and then the same distance back to bring it to the shop. Long story short, this was the worst trip experience of my life. I think someone trying to run you over and then shoot at you isn't something you simply get over. Me and my best friend, both 22, recently spent 3 months backpacking in Europe. We had lots of strange encounters, but this one takes the cake. We
Have you not seen Taken?
get checked out of our hostel and decided to make our way to the international train station to wait for our night train. We had to take 1 or 2 trains to get to the big train station from where we had been staying, since it was in a relatively isolated area with just highways and a gas station nearby. We prefer to get to the train stations or airports early to get our tickets and make sure we don't miss the train. Also, we don't like walking around with our bags for hours. We had a 5-hour wait for the train, so we were both sitting on a bench just passing time on our phones. Around an hour after we arrived at the train station, a police officer came up to us and asked us what we were doing. I politely explained that we were waiting to board the night train. He asked to see our tickets, and I said that we don't have our tickets yet, just our rail passes. He looked at our passes and told us we still need to buy tickets. I thought he meant reservations, as some trains require pass holders to pay a reservation fee. Though I had researched the train we were catching and it did not require a reservation.
Are you sure that's a cop?
He told us to come with him, so we gathered our bags and followed him to the ticket office. He told the clerk that we wanted to purchase 2 tickets to Bucharest. I explained that we didn't need tickets and that our final destination was Budapest. He wouldn't listen and kept insisting that we purchase tickets. Finally, the lady in the ticket office looked at our passes and printed us something like a seat assignment.
Taken.
This seemed to satisfy him. The officer told us that we need...
That creepy ass smile, man. Yo, you can't be trusting everybody you come across. This shit wild. You never know what people's motives are out here.
needed to wait in a different area since we were catching the night train. So he took us to a closed-off room with some chairs and told us to stay there. He left,
What?
and we both breathed a sigh of relief, thinking
What?
that the interaction was over. It's really scary being in a foreign country and having a police officer yell at you. We thought we might get stuck in Turkey. We started watching a movie on my laptop to pass the time. About an hour after we went to the new waiting room, the same officer came in and told us we had to move again. He said to follow him, so we did. He started asking questions like, "What are you doing in Turkey?" and "How do you know each other?" etc. Questions any border control could ask. He escorts us back to the outside bench we'd been sitting on originally. He asks to see our passports and tickets for the second time, and we show them to him. He points out which terminal our train will leave from. He stands by, asking questions for a few minutes, and then leaves. This happens 2 or 3 times. He comes and tells us that we have to move, and asks the same questions, and looks at our passports. At this point, we are terrified that we are going to be detained and not make it to the train. It's nearly time to board our train, so we decide to head over to the terminal. On our way there, he intercepts us as we're about to get on the escalator. He grabs my arm, hard. I look to my friend, horrified. He looks at my friend and tells her, "You go on," and points at the escalator. She gets on the escalator.
No!
What else could she do when an officer with a
What?
gun gives an order? He waits until she gets a bit away, all the while gripping my arm. Then he looks at me and says, "Are you on Instagram?" I'm stunned. I say yes, and give him my Instagram username.
The
He
fuck?
asks me to type it into his phone, so I do. He lets go of my arm and says, "Have a good trip." I reconnect with my friend and we run to get the train and find our seats. I'm in tears at this point. The whole day's been so scary. I thought we were being flagged as suspicious for getting to the train station early, when all the while it was just some creep trying to chat me up or something. He followed me on Insta and sent a message request along the lines of, "What's up, remember me?" I blocked him. My friend asked me why I gave him my Instagram at all, and I told her I just wanted the interaction to be over and for him to let me get on the train.
These niggas be lonely out here. Real life lonely. You grip a girl up, scare her ass just to get her Instagram. Come on now. But yo, hope y'all enjoyed this story. Let me know if y'all want more of these stories. I enjoy these. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all enjoyed. Like, share, and subscribe. If you are new, yo, I'm gonna see y'all later. Thank y'all for tuning in once again. I'm out of here. Peace.